Mid-range phones are getting way better in 2025. Google has the new Pixel 9a, Apple's got the iPhone 16e, and newcomer Nothing recently launched the fancy Phone 3a Pro, and that makes life so much harder for Samsung. Here I have its two new mid-range phones, the Galaxy A36 and the Galaxy A56, and one big question, can they keep up? First of all, I have to say that these are kind of the same phone. Both have the exact same 6.7-inch screen, same size, same battery, identical charging speeds, and almost the same cameras. The only major difference is that the A56 has slightly faster processor and a bit more RAM. Now I get it that having so many similar phones as Samsung has can be confusing, but I think the company does the right thing here. It gives you the option to spend a bit less, $400 for the A36, and then you have the slightly more expensive A56 for $500. Design-wise, I like that both new A series have a glass back now, which feels more premium than plastic. Also, that's one small win compared to the Pixel 9a, which has a plastic back. Now, I'm not a fan of the chin on the bottom of both phones, but they otherwise have big and beautiful displays. The other thing is that new camera styling. Instead of separate camera lenses, we now have one pill-shaped camera island. I don't think that matters, except from a practical standpoint. You will no longer have the problem of dust gathering around each lens. Also, look closer. The A56 has indentations around each lens, which you don't have on the A36. And these phones are so similar that this is basically the only way to visually tell them apart. Another welcome change here is that both these phones are 10% thinner than before. Last year's A35 was 8.2mm and these new models are 7.4mm. And yes, it's a small detail, but I like it. They also weigh a bit less than before, clocking in at just under 200 grams, and you have IP67 water and dust protection, just a small step down from flagships which usually have IP68. So what is it they don't have? Well, I would say it's the performance. It's the one thing the Galaxy A series did not quite have before, and this just continues this year. The Pixel 9a, for example, or the iPhone 16e both use flagship-grade chips, and for all intents and purposes, you get flagship performance with these phones. There's no stutter on them, and everything feels fast. The Galaxy A series? They use slower chips. The A36 base version ships with the last gen Snapdragon 6 Gen 3 chip, and the A56 comes with a slightly better Exynos 1580 processor. And how much have they improved since last year? Here are the numbers compared to the previous models. Now, when compared to rivals, as we said, these processors are not on the same level. Here are the benchmark scores where you can really see the difference, especially for the A36, which uses a slower chip and has less RAM. The Pixel 9a and iPhone 16e both beat these Galaxies, but I was also surprised that the Nothing Phone 3a Pro, which has lower scores in benchmarks, actually feels much faster in real use than the Samsung A series, and this just tells me that One UI remains not quite as well optimized. Both new A series have a larger vapor chamber now, and this makes some difference for gaming performance, so at least you have that. And it's also a bit of a shock to me that the A36 and A56 have the latest Android 15 and One UI 7 on board, while the Galaxy S24 from last year, the flagship models, still haven't gotten this update. That's crazy. And this really puts into question Samsung's commitment to updates. Sure, the company promises 6 years of OS updates with these budget phones, but if it takes that long for these updates to arrive, does that even matter? Anyway, Samsung also brags about the new A series borrowing a few AI features from the Galaxy S series. But I think we should be a bit over all the AI hype by now. Yes, you get some features like Best Face on the A series, so you can switch the facial expressions of people in a motion photo in case someone blinks. Cool, I suppose, but I just feel that features like this one don't really live up to the awesome intelligence that Samsung and all others are so eager to advertise. Call me an old and grumpy man, I guess. Also, it's super strange that the long press on the power button on the A series still brings Bixby, while on the flagship Galaxy S series, you get Gemini. Bixby is nowhere nearly as powerful as Gemini, and we just don't understand why Samsung creates all these little inconsistencies and its own ecosystem. Alright, so what about those cameras? You see 3 lenses on the back, and remember what I told you at the start. Rivals are getting better. The Nothing Phone 3a Pro is about the same price, and it's the first mid-range phone with a telephoto periscope camera. For the Galaxy A36 and A56, it's technically 3 cameras also, but the third one is a 5 megapixel macro lens, which I call a fake camera. So essentially you only have 2 real cameras. Here are a few snaps. You can definitely see the advantage of having a native zoom lens on the Nothing Phone over digital zoom on the Galaxy. The main camera has a 50 megapixel sensor on both new A series, but the sensor size is a tiny bit larger on the A56 compared to the A36. So this is noticeable a bit for night shots, but barely. And for the ultra-wide camera, you have an 8 megapixel one on the A36 and a 12 megapixel one on the A56. And again, a slightly bigger sensor on the A56. Now, in the ultra-wide camera, the difference between the two is more noticeable. You get more detail with the A56 and a better quality. And it's also a bummer that 2x portrait mode is only available on the A56, but not the A36 for some reason. And in video, when shooting 4K, the A36 cannot use the ultra-wide camera, while the A56 can. Hey, what's up guys? Vic here with PhoneArena with the A36 and the A56. Is there a difference in the camera qualities? They are very similar, but let's check out the video. So this is the main camera, 4K 30 on both phones. It should be pretty much identical. There is a slight difference in the sensor size between the two. Battery life is unchanged on these two. Same 5000 mAh battery as before, but now the small Pixel 9a has a bigger battery than Samsung's large phones, which is not the best look. Fun fact, both the A36 and A56 support 45 watt charging, meaning they charge faster than the flagship Galaxy S25 model. How did that happen? Remember though that you don't get a charger in the box, and to use these faster speeds you need both a compatible power adapter and a thicker 5 amp cable in order for the maximum speeds. And you should also know that there is no wireless charging on either one. The Pixel 9a and iPhone 16e both support wireless charging, even if that's slow 7.5 watt wireless charging, but at least it's there. So here are the advantages of the Galaxy A56 compared to other rivals. Compared to the Pixel 9a, it has a bigger screen, faster charging speeds, and a more premium glass back. And it's also a thinner phone. While the Pixel has supposedly a better camera, day one updates from Google, so you don't have to wait, a bigger battery, and support for wireless charging. Next, compared to the Nothing Phone 3a Pro, the Galaxy A56 is about the same size, but it has no real advantages, except for occasionally better main camera quality and the longer software support, but considering Samsung's delays with updates, I'm not sure that counts. The Nothing Phone beats the Galaxy with its fancier design, telephoto camera, and slightly lower price. That is if you can get the Nothing Phone though. It's sold in only limited markets. So overall, this is a decent update for the new Galaxy A phones, but it's just that others have made bigger strides this year. What do you think? How do you like the new Galaxy A series?